Sometimes there are situations that you are just too close to deal with and you refuse to acknowledge it and you're steady trying to fix it, and that's how come the situation never gets solved. Let me give you a case in point. Let's say you have a relative that is some kind of trouble. It could be legal trouble, academic trouble, mental trouble, criminal trouble, whatever the case may be. Okay, they're in trouble and you help them out of trouble. But you notice that they haven't made any effort to try to avoid staying out of trouble. They wind up going back into the same environment, dealing with the same people in the same situation so they can get back into trouble again. And the thing is, you won't accept the fact that this person has issues. And if you do, you're offering a whole lot of excuses. Let me give you a case in point. I mentioned in a previous audio about people who throw their money at some people's legal problems but don't address the reason why they committed the problems and seek treatment for why they committed the problems so they won't commit the problems again. And the mentality behind a lot of these people is that person, they feel some sort of pity towards them. And they figure, well, if this hadn't happened to them as a child, and if that hadn't happened to them when they were in school, and if this hadn't happened to them when they were married, they wouldn't be doing this. I hate to play hardball, but the thing is, you providing all these excuses of something that happened yesterday does not address the issues that are going on today. Let's face it, we've all had our problems coming up. And it doesn't matter what type of problems they are. They could have been financial, they could have been religious, spiritual, they could have been relationship problems, family issues. We've all had problems because we're all humans. Nobody's perfect, and nobody was raised in a perfect situation. Or we could have gotten grown and experienced some kind of negative situation, hence his life. But the thing is we can't sit up here and offer up excuses from something that happened in the past that you cannot do anything about to address a situation that is going on right now that could affect this person's future. On this channel, we are in the business of addressing negative behaviors so we can start to solve problems, not exacerbate them. And when you make up excuses for people all the time for why they're doing what they're doing, that's not solving the problems. You've identified the problem, which is, okay, you've identified it, but if it's not a problem that could be solved because of something or someone that happened in the past that doesn't exist anymore, you're going to have to accept that circumstance for what it is and look at the situation that's going on today and try to come up with some solutions that can be worked on today to affect tomorrow. And one of the most common things I hear is let's say you have that one person who stays in trouble. Let's just say this person stays moving from pillar to post. They're chronically homeless, because chronic homelessness is a thing for some people. Never stay in one place. And the reason why they don't stay in one place, it could be some of the simplest things they could have done. One of the things that they could have done is, number one, they could have just contributed to the household, became productive by getting a job or going to school. That's all they had to do to stay there. That's all they needed to do to stay there, but they refused to do it. Or it could be a situation where they get involved in relationships with people whom they hardly know, and they, for some reason, will not commit, will not shoulder their part of the emotional responsibility in the relationship, and then they have to split up because of that, because that person feels like they're wasting their time with them. Or it could be a situation with substance abuse, where they're constantly losing places to stay because instead of spending their money making sure that the lights stay on and making sure the rent is paid, they're putting it in their veins. It could be a number of things. But what happens is when you have relatives that are around, that are relatives and friends and family members that are too close to the situation, they'll sit there and say, yeah, that's what's going on with them. But the reason why they're doing that is, they never knew who their father was. Okay, I'm very sorry to hear that they don't know who their father was. But there was a situation between the mother and the father. It wasn't their child's fault. And if the father has passed away, I'm sorry to hear that too. They never knew who their father was, and the father is gone. That's really sad, but that happened yesterday. He's still got problems today. Okay? So what are we going to do today to address that? Oh, you got to understand, she never was able to get a man that was willing to treat her right. So she always keeps getting in these abusive relationships with these men. And because, that one time, when she first, her first boyfriend had her, he beat her up brutally. And now her mind is just really messed up because she feels that's what she needs to deal with. Okay, I'm very, very sorry that she went through that trauma. Trauma's nothing to laugh at. But that happened yesterday. She's got problems in all areas of her life today. So what are we going to do today about something that happened yesterday? And you need to start asking yourselves that. If someone experienced a trauma in their life and they're exhibiting behaviors in all aspects of their life that are reflective of that trauma, reflective of abuse, neglect, or whatever the case may be in their past, and they cannot confront the people that were involved in that situation due to death or whatever it is, then what you need to do is accept the fact that that door may not be closed because that person isn't around for them to try to close the door. Okay, I'm sorry you went through that trauma. Trust me, I am truly sorry. But that was yesterday. You've got problems in these areas today. So what are we going to do today to fix the problem so you can have a better tomorrow? You got to be careful about that. Because sometimes when you keep bringing that up all the time, it becomes an excuse for their behavior, and they in turn interpret that as something that's normal, and it's not. Okay, bring it out on the table, the fact that, okay, they went through this. Okay, but so-and-so's dead now. They're gone. Let's say you were abused and your parents are gone. Truly sorry. Truly sorry. I've dealt with a lot of people who have went through some abuse and their abusers are dead. So they can't confront them. They can't express themselves to them. They can't do anything. But today, they have to look in the mirror and deal with themselves today. They have to examine their behaviors and the way they're living their life. And they have to realize that the way they're living their life, the parts of their life that's out of control is due to that trauma. Trauma that's unresolved, yes, and that's unfortunate that it's unresolved in a material way. But you have to find a way to bury that trauma so you could be more productive from this point. Because between that time that the trauma occurred and today, your life has not been good. So yes, it happened. And it was a horrible thing. But are you going to keep it alive in your mind and use it as an excuse for not being the person that you could be? You need to ask yourself that. And if you're surrounded by people who use that as an excuse and you know better, you need to leave them folks alone because they don't know any better. As I stated in the previous audio, a lot of us are notorious for identifying the problem, but we're helpless when it comes to solving them. We're masters at identifying the problem, but we're helpless when it comes to solving them. And that needs to change. So if you're one of these people that have unresolved issue in your life and that person is alive or that situation or that organization or whatever it is that created that trauma inside you where you can't produce a fruitful life and they still are around, go back to them and deal with them. Let them know what their actions or lack of actions have done to them. Let them know. But don't expect them to feel sorry. Don't expect a reaction. Just confront them for the sake of unloading that burden. Don't unload that burden expecting a reaction because some of these people probably don't even realize they did anything wrong because they weren't programmed right. But just do it to get the burden off of you if they're still around and it's affecting your life to the point where you know that that's going to be the only thing that will free you. Confront them. I invite it. But if they're gone physically from this earth, you're going to have to find another way to let it go. And it might be through journaling. It might be through going to therapy and just talking it out, or talking to a picture or something to get that burden off of you. Either way, you're going to have to go to therapy anyway, because you're going to have to adjust your mindset to reflect the fact that you need to transition from that state of bondage to a state of freedom, and that's not an easy thing to do mentally. But if you've got these people around here that are fueling the fire, using that as an excuse, well, you know his dad wasn't around, and you keep hearing it, you're already in a fragile mind state anyway. You already know that things aren't quite right. But if you got people around here reinforcing it by keep bringing up the fact that you had this severe lack in your past, it's not helping you, it's hurting you. And if they don't understand that, and don't want to do anything to correct the problem, and all they want to do is talk about the problem, those are not the people you need to have around you if you want to have a more productive life. You don't need to have those people around you. You just don't. You need to limit your access to them. It starts with your sphere of influence. And there are a lot of you who have, done any sales or marketing. You already know what a sphere of influence is, and that's basically the people that are around you who are close to you, close to your cause, close to your mindset. People who are part of your life on a constant and consistent basis. It could be relatives, friends, it could be anybody who have full access to you. That's your sphere of influence. And sometimes your sphere of influence can be bad, and sometimes it could be good. But I have to applaud you that, you have identified the problem. But what are you going to do to fix it? With that being said, I'll go ahead and let you go. Peace.